Just give me 1 second to bring it up. Alright, now the first one is on xbiz.com. It's an article by Rhett Pardon, and it's titled, LA City Council Hesitant to Suspend Production Permits. And I'm just going to read a bit of this. If you want to read this on your own, it's linked up. The Los Angeles City Council was hesitant to suspend adult film production permits this Friday after being challenged by officials from AIDS Healthcare Foundation. The AHF has campaigned intensively in the past year over enforcement of condom use and safe sex practices in porn, ramping up its voice after a porn performer tested positive for HIV earlier this week. AHF officials called on City Council to direct Film LA, the agency contracted by the City of Los Angeles to handle film permits, to suspend issuing permits. Quote, a requirement from LA City Council would send a powerful message that the public bodies think it's an important public health issue, end quote, AHF spokesman Jed Kinslea told the council. Quote, we want to suspend porn production until this incident is sorted out, end quote. But Councilman Richard Alarcon, speaking to the Los Angeles Times, said that there could be a risk with lawsuits over civil rights violations, and the AHF's call was not practical. Quote, to revoke a permit for an entire industry, where does it stop? End quote, Alarcon said. Quote, if a stuntman injured himself, and we know there are injuries to stuntmen all the time, are we going to pull the permits for the industry? The answer is no. End quote. Now, if you want to read this entire thing, it's going to be linked up on monicaathome.com. So really, that was the first news story that touched on this within the adult entertainment media. Now, the second news story that I'm going to read, again, is on xbiz.com. And the link to it is xbiz.com/news/126444. Alright, this one's entitled, LA County Supervisors to be Asked to Step Up Porn Oversight. Again, this is a story by Rhett Pardon on xbiz.com. Continuing its assault on the adult film industry practices, advocates of the AIDS Healthcare Foundation are planning a visit to Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors bi-weekly meeting on Tuesday in a plea to ratchet up health department oversight. The AHF's Brian Chase, Mickey Jackson, and Jed Kinslea plan to speak before the supervisors, directing them at a public comment to take their side in the debate over condoms-only production after the latest HIV case was disclosed last week, the third such episode since 2004. In addition to asking for more health department oversight, they also plan to ask supervisors to force county agencies, including the Sheriff's Department, to put a hold on issuing film production permits under their control until the HIV incident is sorted out. They also seek clarification of the shoot permit process. Kinslea of the HAF told XBiz that the city and county of Los Angeles are between 4,000 and 11,000 porn shoots a year, with about 1,400 that are actually permitted by the government officials. Quote, the numbers are big enough, and we think that the county should be more proactive over the issue at hand, end quote, he said. The AHF has spent most of the past year blasting conventional adult film practices, insisting on mandatory condom-only adult productions. They've used conventional methods such as disseminating their view through press releases to get their word out, as well as some in the adult industry who take their side. Late Friday, the AHF sent out press releases applauding Jenna Jameson's quotes to Radar Online, which she called the industry a, quote, ticking time bomb, and another by blogger Mike South, who posted a thread titled, It's Time to Clean Up the Industry, and his website's mikesouth.com. Diane Duke, the Free Speech Coalition's executive director, told XBiz last week that the AHF's continual attempt to exploit the latest HIV scare is for political gain. Quote, rather than recognizing the industry for going above and beyond what is required, AHF is using this opportunity to continue its never-ending stream of grandstanding, she said. XBiz, end quote. XBiz will add additional details and industry comment to this story as it becomes available. Now, this next article is from the LA Weekly. and I'll link this up. It's entitled, LA Councilman Richard Alarcon says city won't pull porn permits because it's afraid of lawsuits. Now this is a story by Dennis Romero. At a time when some of the larger porn producers in Los Angeles have shut down production as a result of an HIV positive test for an actor, the city of LA says it will continue to issue permits for adult filming. Why? Councilman Richard Alarcon, who chairs the Jobs and Economic Development Committee that oversees such permits, says taxpayers would run into lawsuits if City Hall pulled its approval of adult video smut. Really? We're forced to swallow this $4 billion a year enterprise? Alarcon told the council Friday, quote, I don't think there's a majority or even close to a majority on the council that are even interested in this subject. To pull permits for the businesses could cause severe legal challenges that could cost the taxpayers money, end quote. Quote, as much as many of us are appalled by the activity, they are completely willing and capable of defending themselves with the highest paid lawyers to fight for their civil rights, and to date, they have been able to fend off these kinds of challenges, end quote. Wow, from a city council willing to shut down a vast majority of the state legal pot dispensaries in town, this comes off as a real crock. The AIDS Healthcare Foundation has called on LA to stop sanctioning Valley porn until the producers agree to start mandating condom use. It has used the latest report of HIV as an example of what can happen when the industry goes without the kind of regulations that cover the transmission of diseases in other industries. Ironic, the city has no balls when it comes to this industry. We're wondering who is contributing to whom. We talked to Film LA, an organization authorized by the city to facilitate film permits, about how easy it is to get city halls okay to start filming prostitution. Adult shoots are no different than Hollywood ones, except that there are conditions placed on them. They can't be seen or heard by the public, says Film LA spokesperson Todd Lindgren. Pay a $625 application fee, meet the rules required of all films, and you're in Film LA. If you want to read this whole thing, because it's pretty long, again, I'll link this up, and it's on blogs.laweekly.com. But it is confusing. It is pretty confusing to me how it's confusing that the LA City Council would relate this HIV scare within porn to someone getting hurt as a stuntsman, because if you get hurt as a stunts person, it's not a chain reaction that can go into the public sector or affect someone outside of the porn industry or the film industry's health. If somebody gets hurt as a stunts person, someone else isn't going to get hurt who's not a stunts person. But somebody who contracts HIV in porn, they can easily have sex with somebody who's not in porn and transmit the disease. And again, it would be a chain reaction, and that chain reaction can occur very, very quickly. So that was something that I didn't quite understand. But, again, if the LA City Council is pulling marijuana permits, marijuana doesn't cause people to die, not in my view at least. HIV does. So, let me just go back to my notes here as far as things I wanted to talk about. Gosh. Well, I do think that condom use in porn does need to go ahead and go into effect. And it's interesting because there's a lot of people who work within porn right now. There's prominent people who work within porn. One person in particular who I want to commend today, and that's Lisa Ann. She used to run an adult talent agency, but now I think that she's back to being a talent. But as soon as this happened, I noticed on her Twitter that she made a call, and she also she made a call to the public for condom-only scenes, and she was also quoted in the Boston Herald, and I have that linked up on monicaathome.com, saying that she feels that at this point, scenes need to be condom only, and she's not going to succumb to the pressures of performing in not condom only scenes. I mean, I think that's great that she's taking a stand like this, and I'm sure she's going to make a lot of enemies within the adult entertainment industry, but it goes to show that she's thinking more about the safety of herself and other performers above money. You know, she's already been booked for condom only scenes according to her Twitter, so you know what, go Lisa Ann. And I think that more women in porn, they need to take a stand, and they need to take her lead on this. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is definitely backed up by scientific data, and I'm going to preface this by saying that I am not a doctor, I am not a scientist, I'm not a professional researcher, but I'm just somebody who is on the computer a lot, who's done a bit of research and has noticed some things that I think need to be brought to light. There's another factor that can slow a person's progression of HIV in their system, and it can also make HIV in a person's system virtually undetectable. And this factor has to do with something called a CCR5 genetic mutation.